So when you're doing all this stuff and you're like, so you were doing that, you were living with her in LA when you were 17, 18?
Mm-hmm. 17.
Where were your parents? Because by then you were out of the performing arts school.
Yeah,
so
what
were your parents?
A quick stopgap.
Yeah.
I'm out of the performing arts school. I'm homeschooled. I'm lonelier than hell.
That's right.
I gained like 50 pounds. Like I'm just a fat kid sitting on MySpace all day.
Prior to moving to LA.
Right. This is all. We'll go back like a year and a half. So I'm completely alone, just eating saltines and sad because I have no social interaction. Because now I've tasted it. When I was young, I didn't care.
Saltines and sad. There's an album title.
There you go. That's another memoir. The Fat Years.
At least a DVD.
Yeah, Andy
at least.
Biersack, The Fat Years. It's just a static shot camera of me eating, getting fat. So I'm sad, and now I've tasted social interaction, which I never cared about when I was younger. But now I've know what it's like to meet people, and I know girls and all this. And I go to my parents and I say, "Look, I don't know what this means, but I think I want to go to regular high school now." I wish this is one of those times where it would be nice to have like a time cop situation where I could go back and just punch myself in the face, because I didn't realize that meant constant misery. And because you have to understand that since I was a little kid getting beat up in school and Catholic school and all that, I have not experienced bullying for a 4-year period because I've gone to fairyland. I was in a performing arts school where I was the only guy that girls could talk to because all the other dudes were hanging out with each other there. I was at a performing, you know what I mean? So I'm the only choice.
Right.
By default, I'm the manliest dude there, and I'm dressing like Alex from A Clockwork Orange on a Wednesday to go to school. Like, but all the girls are like, well, fuck it. I guess this is what we got. So I'm already there. And then I go to LA and I'm like edgy guy, and girls like me there because they're, a little bit more open-minded. I'm different. I'm like you said, I'm like the fucking baby Johnny Depp to them. So then I go back home and I'm on MySpace, and MySpace people. So I have not experienced what it's like to just go hang out with the football players and all that in a very long time. And I'm ill prepared, to say the least. I'm like first day of school, like eyeshadow. It's all great. I'm all ready. I've got my Misfit shirt on, all stoked. Head in, just hitting that back of the head immediately. Like, oh, really? That's right. I forgot about this. And not only have I not gone to school in a long time, I didn't do any of my schoolwork in homeschool. So I've now been put into like freshman classes. So I'm now a junior or whatever, and I'm in nothing but freshman classes. And just miserable. I was tested by the state for mental retardation. By the way,
really?
Yes, achieved the highest test score that you could ever get. And I had to explain to them,
that needs to be put on your Wikipedia.
It's not because I'm retarded. I just am lazy. It's not. I'm smart enough to do this. But what I'm trying to say to you is that I don't need to know about the Magna Carta. It's never going to affect me. Do you know how many times I'm ever going to use algebra? Never. But here you test me, and I did it, and whatever. So they put me in a class for math. My mathematics class was me and a kid who, to his credit, he didn't know that it was happening, but all he did was just yell obscenities at the wall and punch it over and over again. So it's me and a guy just saying, fuck you, wall, and punching it over and over again. His name was Jimmy. Me and Jimmy just hanging out.
Future TM, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Me and Jimmy just hanging out with a woman who's just hungover or currently drinking, because who gives a shit? It's the weird goth kid and Jimmy. Like, they're not going to pay attention. So, and we do like 4th grade math, and then we leave. And like, you have to understand that for someone like me, I am now in a spiraling like circle of hate, because I'm not being stimulated mentally at all, and everyone around me hates me and thinks I'm the biggest, whatever, fag, whatever. So I start to fight people. That was my thing. I started to fight. I got into being aggressive because I needed to defend myself and I needed to fill my time somehow. So for the first time in my life, I'm now not only in trouble for being weird or different or smoking cigarettes or whatever. Now I'm getting in trouble because I'm physically getting into fights all the time because I have to learn to defend myself. But it is at this time that I start to separate. Where when I was a little kid, I would get bullied and made fun of, and on the same ways that when I was the age of a lot of the kids, that the younger audience that we have. And I understand how depressing that could be. But if I didn't go back to high school in that time, and I didn't face that bullying on a different scale, I would have never been able to turn the corner and realize how important it is to be mindful of your own self strength. And that is very important in my life. The fact that I went back and I learned how to fight, and I learned how to fight for myself, that's when I started to write songs. Because I'd always written dumb songs. That's when I started to write real songs. That's when I wasn't just copying Alkaline Trio songs. That's when I started to write things about what I was feeling. And if it wasn't for that, I would have never had what I had going into LA. I would have never had that feeling. I would have never had the interest in the army aspect and all that stuff, because I would have I almost fell out of that for a little while because I got to have fun and I got to be treated like a normal person. And I'm not saying that people should have to go through the strife, but in my situation, I don't think I'd have the career that I have if it wasn't for me learning that very key point of fighting for myself. I mean, I would get kicked out for the silliest things. Like, you know, I would have striped socks on and I would get suspended. You know, it went on forever, but I always got blamed because I was weird. They didn't want me around there. They didn't want me there. So what they did was they kicked me out of the regular high school. And this is where it became awesome because they put me into a trailer about 1.5 miles off of the high school campus. And it is where they sent the kids who maybe had recently murdered someone or, you know, like all of the kids who came out of juvenile detention but needed to be educated got put into this trailer. And I felt a little bit more at home there. I was like, I've never raped anybody, but I feel like you and I could talk because they hate you and they hate me. Like, I don't want to hang out with you after this, but we can sit together. Right. And the assignments were ridiculous. This is a real assignment that they gave us because they're afraid of these kids.
Right.
So the guy comes in and he goes, hey, and he puts on 2 music videos. Toby Keith, We'll Put a Boot in Your Ass, It's the American Way, or whatever that, you know, and Alan Jackson, Where Were You When the World Stopped Turning? We have to watch those both. And he goes, all right, now compare and contrast these 2 music videos and how these 2 write patriotic songs, and then leaves the room. And we're all like, fuck this, no one's doing this. And so, I was never like I guess of all those people, I was trying to consider my way of how I can get out of it. And so then like maybe I did that for like a couple weeks, and then I go like, well, fuck, they don't care if I'm there. I'm just going to drive to Dunkin' Donuts, drive to the place, listen to music, smoke cigarettes in my car, read AP or whatever else I could find, and then leave. When the traffic from the school leaves, I'll come back and they'll call my parents and tell them I'm there. They don't fucking care. And so over time, I start to realize that it doesn't matter even if I drive there. So I'm becoming less and less attached because it doesn't, at the end of the day, I'm not going to graduate high school is where this is going. I'm realizing in my head that I don't have what it takes to care about I Am Legend like on film with Will Smith and then write a report about it because they've given up on me. The school system has given up on me. They don't think I'm going to learn. I stand no chance of learning anything for the rest of my academic career. I already know more than any of these fucking people anyway because I actually bothered to pay attention to the things around me. Why do I do this? I'm done. And I explain this to my parents and they don't really fight me on it because they know how sad things have gotten. Like to go from when I was in SCPA, which is the performing arts school where I loved learning and I loved all that, to now, to a couple years later, and I'm literally comparing and contrasting country music videos on an academic level. Like even as a parent, you got to be like, well, and I've always been a smart kid, so they couldn't really fight me too much on that. They knew that I was going to find education on my own. I don't love that I dropped out of high school, but I think high school dropped me off. I don't think that they cared about me anymore. I have a strong case, and I've talked to many teachers that I'm friends with now, where if you look at my situation, they gave up on me in a way that I had no choice, and I wanted to start my life. And I could have stayed there and gotten my whatever, but I needed to be stimulated more. And that's when I said, okay, I'm going to go to LA full time. I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry, guys. I love you. I have to go. And there was a little bit of fighting back and forth. And they said, when you turn 18, you can go full time. We can't really stop you then. So it was, I think, the December 28th or something. I turned 18 on the 26th. I got a cheap flight, because I would always have to fly out of wherever, like Dayton or whatever, because I couldn't afford to fly out of Cincinnati. So I got a flight out of Dayton. I took all my stuff. My mom was still pretending that this was just another one of my 2-week visits where I was going to go see my girlfriend and I'd come back.
Yeah, she said something like that in the story. She's like, she expected you to be back.
Yeah. But my dad and I got into a fight like we always did. And I think he could, because usually he knew that, he wanted to, I guess he had to get in his last, whatever dad thing. And I was like, I'm not coming back, right? He's like, no, whatever. And then I got my shit and left, and I never went back. I never did until, literally when I sent you that message a couple weeks ago in Cincinnati, it's the first time I've spent any time in Cincinnati since my grandfather's funeral for a day, the 2 times we played Warped Tour. That's it.
How was that?
My grandfather's funeral or
No, not your grandfather's funeral.
You can imagine how one went.
No, just
wasn't my favorite day.
Because when you've been away from your hometown for a while and you go back, you do have this all of a sudden new sense of objectivity you didn't have before.
First Warped Tour was terrible because all the assholes came out. You have to understand that Black Veil Brides, when I first started, it was hated strongly because I was egotistical and opinionated, and I thought I could stop all the shit around me. I thought that I was going to be that punk rock force that was going to do something. So there was a huge Courage Crew scene, and they would beat up my friends, and I would go on stage and say, fuck the Courage Crew. Now, that's not something that you should do as a 15-year-old with a completely defenseless 15. But I thought that I was, I don't know, I thought saying stuff like that would make people feel something, and it did. Not the greatest thing. It made them like want to beat up my parents and cover my house and shit and whatever. So I dealt with a lot because of that. But I thought it was wrong. I thought it was wrong that I watched a kid's teeth get kicked out because he smoked a cigarette at a party. I thought it was wrong that because I wore makeup and drank a Coca-Cola that had energy in it, that I was going to get shit thrown at me, from across the street. Like, I just thought that shit, it was bullying to me. It was bullying, and it felt nothing like what I understood there. Because I always was into researching stuff. So I'm like, all right, what's Fugazi? And I'll look up minor threat, and I'll find out what is this about. And I was like, these are just fucking jock bullies who have now found something that they're attaching themselves to. It has nothing to do with any of that. There's no community there. They're just mean, just being mean for the sake of it, and then saying, oh, but I got the edge. Like, it's not, you're just being a dick and then saying that you're part of the dick club. That's it. Like, it's not fair. So that created a lot of hatred. And then through that, those kids kind of died off. The Courage Crew thing kind of died down in Cincinnati, but there was still a lot of residual, like, let's fuck the makeup faggy band, because that was it. We were the only one. And this is before, bands like Escape the Fate started getting really popular, or bands like, Aiden, or all these, like, this is like just before that, because they were popular in certain areas, but not where this is before our scene kind of got all that stuff. So I was the sole band in that area that was doing anything like with the makeup or the hair, or any kind of glam nature to it, or any kind of, covering Misfit songs or whatever. So that caused a lot of hatred, and all those people stayed around long enough. And amazingly, I mean, we're talking about now, it was 2011 was the first time we rolled through there again. And they were there in full force. I mean, they were signs, fuck you, in fact, like the makeup.
At Warped Tour.
Yeah, a lot. And
they went through all that
for years. They waited for me to come back, and I always joke that some people get met with the ticker tape parade, and I just get people throwing wads of shit in the air when I get back, And we were prepared for that this year with Warped Tour, and it's amazing what the success of the band has done, and what the positivity that we have with a lot of people have done. And it was raining, so we played the main stage. They moved it into the amphitheater. And I was like, fuck, now all these people are going to fucking pack into the amphitheater. It's going to be nothing but a shit show. I never get nervous for shows, but Dusty, who is a production assistant on Warped Tour, was standing backstage with me with Kevin there. And I was almost shaking. Like, I was very nervous because I was afraid of I'm very combative. I was afraid of what I was going to do. I'd explained to Kevin, I was like, I don't want you to be upset with me, but I might get engaged in something today, because if people come at me, particularly here, like, there's nothing more re-stimulating for me than anything.
It's an old war, man.
Yeah. So I'm shaking and everything, and go out on stage, and I didn't realize I couldn't see how well it was going. That's the only way I can say it is, like, I literally couldn't. The whole amphitheater, by the way, is full, and everyone is having the best time. Everyone knows all the songs. We're 3 songs into the set, and I'm still talking to the audience like they hate me. Like, I'm full on, like, aggressive, like,
defense.
fuck you. Yeah. Like, I'm that Golden God speech level of, like, anger. And then I start to, like, something clicked in me where I was like, man, this is, and I actually apologized. I was like, wow, I'm sorry, guys. Like, I came out here on 10 because I expected something different, and my whole life it's been this way. And just the word Cincinnati makes me feel this way. So I came out here expecting to have to fight my way, and, like, very emotional. Like, it was amazing for me. And then I jumped down on the grid to bring the mic out to the fans and tore my whole hand open, and I have a black leather glove on, and it collects like probably a pint of blood in this glove, and I smack myself in the head on stage, and then there's just blood everywhere. So now the audience is freaking out. I'm covered in blood, and everyone's it was like this weird cathartic, like, tribal experience. And it's like, and then we did In the End, which is the song that I wrote about my grandfather, and my mom is there filming it. And to see the amphitheater that I first saw Kiss at when I was a little kid, and I saw Aerosmith and Motley Crue and all these, the big shed bands, full of people, I mean, totally full, singing In the End, was really cool. And that to me I was able to close a chapter in my life that I never would have been able to before. It was awesome. It really was important to me. It was the biggest and most cathartic thing that could have happened, because now I was able to go back home. Like, I would have never done that. I was too angsty and too nervous to go back home years before. But after that show on Warped Tour, I wanted to go visit my parents, and I wasn't afraid to go around. I didn't think I was going to have to defend myself.